Hello. Namaste. I'm running live here. I've got a cockatiel biting on my toes, demanding passage to the top floor. There we go, a little agathon. So, going to be sort of continuing on from the conversation from before. Shinobi's going to be joining us in just a little while, a few minutes. I think he might still be finishing off the show that he's on at the moment. And otherwise, yeah, big love to those of you that are arriving. Probably give you guys a few minutes to sort of come into the space while I just send my girlfriend the link. I saw a message from her, my beautiful sweetheart. There we go. Let's hope that's sent. So, going to be sort of taking a look at the occult mysteries of light today. I think it's going to be a fun little discussion. I think it's something that we did start to brush upon in a round table not so long ago. And I think it's a really important discussion to be having, because we just assume that light is consistent, that we know what light is. And we also assume that we know things. Like, for example, if we talk about something like God, we just assume that we know what we're talking about. And we assume that what we think we mean is what other people think they mean. But very often, we're not talking about the same thing at all. And very often, we don't even know what we're talking about ourselves. And that is something that I think we need to all sort of like take on board, recognize, pay homage to, because life is not quite as clear cut, it's not quite as dry and finished. Big love, namaste to all of you in the space. I'm just grabbing a couple of images for the little chit chat on the little rig rat. So how are you all doing? Hope well. It's a beautiful, rainy, stormy day here. We had crazy storms last night. The Schumann resonance has also been picking up. It's been quite a shift of late. And you'll find that this happens when the weather is happening. And I think there's some relevance to talking about light, the Schumann resonance, the acoustic field. We don't think of the acoustic field of light or the acoustic effects of light so often. So this is something that I think is worthy of correspondences. Where's my correspondences? Correspondences. There we go. So we often just assume that, we know what something is when we actually have absolutely no idea. There we go. So we got a couple of images on the board ready to rock and roll. This is the Bush Whisperer. We're flying into the bushes today. Going to be having a bit of a bushwhack. We'll start off with the acoustic presence of light. And this is really, really important. We're going to start from a biblical perspective. And please, people, be patient. I know you didn't sign up for the biblical lecture. This is not a Sermon on the Mount. We're not here to preach the good book. But even the good book speaks about it. What does it say in the good book? It says that first there was light. No, it doesn't say first there was light. The light came afterwards. What came first? Sound. Okay. So first there was the word. What is the word? Well, I can only tell you what the word is. Grabbing a couple of little light condensers here. I do enjoy having my light condensers while I'm talking about light. The word is essentially the resonant field. We're talking about hermetics. So let's pull up that little graph that I've made here. Kaiden, big love, blessed be, Om Shanti. Hope you're good. Hope you're thriving. Hope you're doing much better than surviving. So we've got here a little correspondence chart that I've done. And you can see in black on the right-hand side, we have the 7 principles of Hermes. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. We're going to be coming back to this image here a few times. And we're going to be looking at it for a very good reason, because you'll notice there's 3 spheres. There's the blue sphere, there's the yellow sphere, and there's the red sphere. And these 3 principles do align with the 3 cosmic bodies, right? And they are related through the chakras to the etheric body, the astral body, and the causal body. And these 3 principles are universal. In yoga, we speak about the Ida, the Pingala, and the Shashumna. And the Shashumna is the balanced, the soul's emanations into the body, right? The Ida is the astral emanations into the body, or through the body, probably a better way to put it. And the Pingala are the solar or electrical principles through which these magnetic or emotional conditions of Ida are able to impregnate, if you will, the form of the etheric. And so these three fundamental bodies, which in Egypt we would be relating them to the Ka body, the red, or the astral body, the Ba, the emotional field, emotional intelligence. It's also the higher intellect. I want us to relate something that's really important to consider here. When we speak of the Ba, we're speaking of the higher mind. When we're speaking of Bariya in the Kabbalistic cosmology, they speak of it as being the high supernal or the super intellect. The Yetzirah is the mind. This is the logical mind that gives definition to things and form as a result of definition. Though the abstract mind is really what we're talking about when we're talking about Bariya. And that's the astral body. And it relates to the emotional field of intelligence. In other words, when you're having an intuitive experience, it's an emotional condition, right? Those eureka moments that you get, you're not logically taking one step to another step, to another step, to another step, eureka. No. Eureka comes like a powerful, emotional, chaotic surge of consciousness, an emotional field that downloads a whole big trough of information into your consciousness, which you then later take apart into little pieces subsequently and turn them into logical expressions of thought. So to understand these 3 principles is to understand how the 3 becomes the 7. And the 7 do emerge from these 3 fundamental states. And this is fundamental states, you could consider them, they're reflected in the physical plane in terms of the alchemical potentials, the 3 alchemical states. And they relate to the Aum, the Tat, and the Sat, right? The Aum being the red, manifestational field. The Tat being the relative, relevant, and the Sat being the totally transcendent, right? The blue. And we can also understand these in terms of the 7 principles that they combine to form. And this is the process of emanations. And so we see that the universe is fundamentally a mental state, right? And this fundamentally mental state became vibration due to a field of correspondence. But it became vibration. You see, correspondence is not something you can be. Mentalism is something you can be. Vibration is something you can be, right? Polarity is an abstract concept. Rhythm is something that's more tangible. Cause and effect is a more abstract concept. Gender is more tangible. So gender, rhythm, vibration, mentalism. These become the 4 fundamental proverbial pillars. And to understand that vibration is where creation starts, is to recognize that the memory, the imagination, and the will spring forth from this sphere of activity. So beyond the sphere of activity, there is no definition of will from imagination, from memory. And so the memory starts to build memory structures that are bound by the imagination. And these structures of memory bound in imagination become activated by the will. And that's the rhythm. And the rhythm is the cue for vibration to become effects and the cause becomes the effect. So this is why in the Bible they say first there was the word, right? The light is a consequence of the vibration. The mentalism became a vibration, and in order for that vibration to happen, correspondence had to become the polarity between vibration and mentalism. And so that was when light came into being, because the movement of vibration, the energetic resonant field of movement, produced heat, produced light. And that light then structures the vibrational field with polarity, because light polarizes. It's what light does. And the polarizing light structuring the vibrational field produced sequence, polarities, various different polarities touching other polarities, which interpreted by the human consciousness as rhythm. And this is the emanations of the 7 Hermetic principles. So when we start to question the ideas of light in a more serious way, we've got to look at this. We've really got to take a proper look, a gander. Got to take a gander. A real gander. And the real gander is important. Let me change up some lighting, ladies and gentlemen. I noticed that there's an element of romance being lost here. I want to get up. I want to get all close and personal with your lot. All these different gadgets here produce light. Speaking of light. So, yeah, the occult mysteries of light. Light is a very interesting substance because we think of light as being fundamental. And let's see who's in the chat. We've got Everyday, welcome. We've got Danny, welcome. Hope you're good. And Caden, big love to all of you. Sending you peace, honor, respect, and love. I hope that noise in the background's not too much. It's like a Black & Decker drill. It's called a black rabbit. And that black bunny is having a go at a cardboard box. Wait a minute. Let me introduce him. And I'm going to put my camera off for a second, lest you meet the man without pants. You may not meet the man without pants, not on this here podcast. Big love, Rachel. How are you? Sending you big love. Do you guys want to meet my little black bunny? There's 2 of them. I'm about to catch one. You guys want to say hello? Give me a second. Let me grab him. I feel like I'm juggling. Okay, so here we got the little one that's making so much noise. The little boy ran away. His name is Petunia. Yo. It's okay, my darling. It's okay. Yes. It's okay. This little one's name is Midnight. She's the cutest. She's the cutest. She's the cutest. Yes. So that's little Midnight. You can hear Petunia in the background. He's a little boy. He's a little bit more like feisty. She's a sweetheart. The bunnies, I don't know if you know this, the males can be a bit aggressive. He's never bitten me hard. He nips me sometimes very gently, just when he's got attitude, when he's moody, because male bunnies can get moody. They're like humans. Males get moody when they're not getting sex, right? As we know. So I thought you guys might want to meet a little. Okay, I'll put you back down. You want to go and run around? Okay, you want to run around? Go and run around. Go and play. Go and play with your little brother / boyfriend / husband / incestuous mate. So yeah, hey Zerilat. Yeah, don't worry, Zerilat. I turned the sound back on. I just muted it while I moved the chair because it's loud. So yeah, to the mysteries of light, light is like one of those incredible things. We think of light as being awakening. We think of light in a metaphorical sense, as a metaphor, as it relates to the ideas of consciousness, right? But I also noticed that there's this weird idea propagated in the world that sort of suggests that consciousness is separate to matter, which to me is honestly the most ridiculous thing that anyone could ever try and come up with from a personal perspective. Because the way I see consciousness is I see matter as an expression of consciousness. In fact, we are standing in consciousness now. The consciousness underneath my feet bind the memories of matter. And the memories of matter are thus, fundamental to the experience of consciousness. So what we think is matter is not separate to consciousness at all. In fact, I would say that it is consciousness. I would say that everything that we're experiencing here is essentially a field of consciousness. And I don't know why I'm not happy with this mic setup. Anyway, I think that's a bit better. So the field of matter and consciousness are not as separate as what we like to pretend that they are. And that people have these lofty philosophical systems and ideas that they need to separate consciousness from matter because we've been taught to think that way by the education system. So when we speak of light, we're speaking of the emanation of consciousness as a metaphor. But I would go as far as to say, well, is it really just a metaphor? I would go as far as to say, is it really just a metaphor? I would insinuate that it's much more than a metaphor. Do you want to run around on the floor? Eh? I would say that consciousness literally manifests as light. And light is electricity. And electricity is matter. And I would say that there is no distinction between light and consciousness because light is information. And the information of form is bound through light. In other words, reality as we know it is really just the electromagnetic spectrum, if we really consider it closely. And so what this means is that the nature of space is bound to light because it is light. So everything that you're touching is electrical in nature, the electrical universe, atoms. And I don't believe that atoms are as we've been taught that they are, but let's just use the word atom because it comes from an ancient Egyptian concept, atum. And let's not mistake the word tomb on the end of that for not being relevant. Because we exist in the sphere of atum, right? We need to go into a tomb. Because we have been born into light, into matter, we must be born from light, from matter, because light is the point of manifestation between consciousness and matter. I think I'm going to need to repeat that. Light is the point of translation or transformation between consciousness and what we call matter. So we have thought, and thought is a very profoundly broad continuum. It's the continuum of expression of being, and experience is bound through thought. So thought is existence. Exist, right? It's coming out of a seed, and the seed is a field of thought that is fundamentally bound. If we consider mentalism, the first principle of Hermes, for a moment, it basically can be understood as such: the unified field of thought that contains all things, yet holds no distinctions between these things, for all is bound in a singular state of thought. And as a singular state of thought and expression, there can be nothing removed or added to the state. And the state of thought, which is mentalism, thus is the perfection of all existence within a single continuum. That means you cannot remove anything, you cannot add anything, you cannot change it. It's unchanging, it's unwavering, it's the fundamental base root of all existence. And so this fundamental base root of all existence, in order for existence to come into being, had to externalize. Extern. Yeah. X to bring out. T, a point, cross the junction, that point where light exists. Urn, the urn where you keep the ashes, right? Urn, L, old name representing the forces of potential being bound by the will and the construction of dynamic intelligence guiding action. And eyes, that's why the Egyptian symbol of the eye is very ancient and very fundamental to understanding the structure of reality. That's why the Ashna chakra in Sanskrit cosmology is fundamental to understanding the way in which the myriad of potentials within Sasra or Sasrara, if I'm going to be specific, chakra, are manifested into this experience. And this experience has many layers. And the crystallized layer that we're existing within right here is physical form. And so we can think of light as being what happens when the energy of thought is slowed down and slowed down more and slowed down more to the point where it is losing energy. Now, if you remember the round table that we had a little while ago, go and check it out. They're in the history on the lives. Just go to the lives. You'll see all the round tables. You might notice that that the idea of the speed of light was challenged. I'm not going to go through it all again because I did it there. You can go watch that video. It's a live. I know it's a long live, but we really break down light in terms of that. And it has to do with light moving through a medium, and it has to do with that there's no such thing as a true vacuum anywhere in the universe. But our so-called average speed of light is calculated in a vacuum, which is not real. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a vacuum. So the so-called speed of light that we're all quoting, it doesn't happen anywhere in the known universe. However, there are various different speeds of light depending on which medium you're in. Space is not a consistent medium. Even according to their model of belief, which we've got a question, there are different grades of space. And the different grades of space hold a different background electrical potential. That potential is going to it's going to act as friction. And that friction is going to lose energy of light. And as it loses energy, it loses momentum. And that there are a very broad spectrum and lots of different frequencies within that spectrum, each traveling at a different speed. So light is very complex. So you cannot speak of the speed of light without looking like an absolute idiot in front of anybody that's got like common sense. Unfortunately, most people don't have common sense because we've had it cleaned out of our minds by the education system. But to those that do have common sense, what I'm saying is it makes sense. Think of a running race, right? And that there are, let's say, 50,000 people running in a race. And the fastest runners of the race are going to run the race in an hour and a half. And the slowest runners of the race are going to run the race in, I don't know, 10 hours, 8 hours, whatever. Maybe the fastest runners would be like in 45 minutes, an hour. And the slowest runners would be like 10 hours. It's probably how it would be in a real race. Can you then say that that race is run in 5 hours? No. Because some people run the race in 45 minutes. Some people run the race in 10 hours. What about different weather conditions? It affects the time of the race. If it's snowing, if it's hailing, if there's gale force winds, if they're running against the wind, do you think that's going to affect the speed? Of course, that's going to affect the speed of the race. So everybody's speed is going to be affected by those conditions. So when you start to look at it, you cannot predict the speed of a race. Predicting the speed of light is like predicting the speed of a race where there are 10,000 runners all running at a different speed. Which speed is the right speed? What you're going to take an average. But that's silly. Because some people are going to say, I didn't run it in 5 hours. I ran it in 45 minutes. Other people will be like, I can't run it in 5 hours. It takes me 10 hours. You see, it's a massive difference. This is the speed of light. So, and it's more of a variance than that. It's exponentially more of a variance. Now, the reason this is relevant is when we look at the nature of light, what I would call light is the release of energy of thought. It's another thing we touched upon on one of the last roundtables, was the energetic potential of thought. And I stipulate that thought contains within it more energy than matter. And that matter is a cadence of the cascade of light energy, which is the loss of potential from thought as it slows down to crystallize. And so what that means is that within your thought, you got more energy in a thought than what there is in the matter. This is why you can affect matter with your thoughts and control matter with your thoughts, because the energy gradient is in favor of the thought. Where there is more energy, there is mass, there's control. If I want to control this crystal, right? In order for me to control this crystal, I need to have more energetic potential in my hand than what is in this crystal, represented as mass. And if I do have more, I can pick it up and put it where I want to. I can move it around, do with it what I want. I can cut it into pieces. I can clean it. I can polish it. I can, throw it up in the air. I can catch it. My point is more energy, control, less energy, controlled. I think that's a universal fundamental law in the universe, or principle. I don't like laws so much, but I think that is a principle that doesn't change. So because thought has more availability of energy than matter, because matter has lost a lot of the availability of the energy in the process of transferring thought through the process of light emission to become the electromagnetic field that crystallizes. It's the small change. And so we're dealing with the small change of the actual economy rather than the big notes. Big notes, that's in the thought. So what does this mean about light? Well, what we experience and see as light is the presence of thought being transformed to matter. Isn't that an interesting concept? So when we say the light of consciousness or to be enlightened, right? Or my mind lit up, we are not speaking in terms of metaphor, even though we are. I believe we're actually speaking in terms of actuality, that the light literally does that. And like what light moves through a fog, moves thought fog. When light moves thought fog. I like that. Consciousness, information, light, matter. Yeah, I mean, I don't think matter is separate to consciousness. And namaste, the star, and Darlene. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are well. And yeah, I didn't give Zerilat a link. I didn't know he'd be available. I thought he was working. So when you look at the idea of light, right, and the idea of how this sort of is an expression, if you start to take on this idea, this worldview, if you will, then it suddenly starts to account for a lot of things, right? It starts to account for telekinesis. It starts to account for seeing the future, right? What is time? Well, time is space folded in on itself, and folded in on itself, and folded in on itself, and each fold is a moment. It's folding in, folding in, folding in, folding in, folding in. And as it folds, there's a change. Another way of understanding this concept is that each field of space is a single negative, and that you have a three-dimensional negative, and that you have trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and I don't even know the numbers of these three-dimensional fields, and time is folding them into a pattern. And that patterning of the folding of these means that, for example, in one field the universe is like this. In another field, my hand has moved like that, and moved like that, moved like that, moved like that, like a cartoon, only it's vibrating really, really fast. And when I say really, really fast, I mean, like, look at gamma rays. What is gamma rays vibrating at? They're considerably faster than 10 terahertz. Fastest frequency of vibration of gamma ray. Let's see what they say. 10 to the 30 hertz. So some of these light photons are reaching up to 10 to the 30 hertz. That means 30 zeros. That's a lot of zeros, right? 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's how many times the frame is being changed in 1 second. So imagine how many frames there are, right? So 1 with 30 zeros or more of these three-dimensional images are unpacked in 1 second. Imagine for a moment just exactly how fast the universe is vibrating. And each movement is a calibration, is a change, because it's like an artist. They've drawn one, then they draw the next one, and there's just tiny change. And they draw the next one, and there's a tiny change. Only it's not being drawn, it already exists. So all of the future emanations exist here now. The past exists here now. The ancestors, from a shamanic perspective, exist here now. Only the pattern of this time field that's being turned into a linear progression is choosing the subsequent forms that are correlating. And so there's a correlating potential. And this correlating potential, we can see it in the hermetic spheres, right? So when we speak about the field of light, for example, when we speak about the field of light, which is emitting from vibration due to polarity and is an expression of polarity, then we can understand that the correspondences between one frame of space and another frame of space is what binds them and sews them into a pattern, so that there's a correlation, right? So that you don't just suddenly have one frame where there's a bus on the roof and another frame where there's a roof on top of the bus. And no, there has to be a correlation. If there's a bus on the roof in one frame, it will have to be in the next frame, and it will have to be slowly sliding down the roof until it lands on the ground because of, the principles of gravity, for example. And so imagine the speed at which these frames, these three-dimensional frames, are being changed. And so we can consider this as as time. And that this potential of change that we experience as time is just really unpacking different three-dimensional fields. And that the fourth dimension, which is time, is a dimension of change of these three fields. Big love, dear Howard. Namaste. How are you doing? Are you moody? You want daddy's attention, hey? Oh, he's being angry on my lap. He's telling me I must stroke him or else. Or else, he says. He says, or else. He's a really aggressive little bugger. When he wants to be stroked, you want to be stroked? You should want to be stroked. I said, daddy said, that is a tweet. Okay, come. I'm sitting. Be a nice little boy. Come on. Be a nice little boy. Huh? There, go onto daddy's shoulder. He's a cheeky little bugger at the best of days. Welcome, dear Peggy Long. Hope you are well. Do you ever wonder why we look to reason? Reason? That's an interesting question. Yeah, Agathan. There's my little hostage. Yes. His daddy's little hostage, eh? So, yeah, he is my hostage, I suppose. That's a nice way of looking at it. Do you ever wonder why we look to reason? Well, Reggie, that's a good question. Reason. Let's look at the word reason. Let's break it down. I love words. So, ray is light. A ray of light. It comes from ancient Egypt. We call it Ra, Ray. Ray was the most likely pronunciation for the name of what we call Ra. That stupid pronunciation was put into our brains by the establishment for a reason. So Ray has got to do with light. What is a sun? A sun is the source from which the ray comes. So we want to understand the sun from which the ray comes. The ray represents the information of consciousness becoming matter, and the sun is the apparent source of that ray. And the sun thus represents a 0-point epicenter through which thought can be translated into matter. So ray sun means the ray that goes back towards the sun, means the reverse of the pranic field of light coming to us, the light of consciousness moving back to understanding where that came from. You see? So the word reason can be broken down as to understand why we use that word, where it comes from, what its ancient associations are. Sounds are not just coincidental. All language started with onomatopoeia. Well, this is evident here in Africa. It is said that it is said that the human language came about as a result of the hooves of running animals, and these running animals, these running antelope, produced the sounds that became the language. That's why in Africa you've got you got and or the main clicks in Xhosa, but Xhosa's got some clicks in it. The San people had so many clicks I can't even make them. I can't speak San language. I can only speak a little bit of Xhosa. So the idea of language and reason is an interesting one to consider, because the language is the way in which the logos, the logical mind, structures time and space. And it draws the distinctions and differentiations between the different frequencies of light. And we call this geo, earth, metric. Metric has got to do with the measurement of geo, of earth, geometric geometry. Huh? Sacred, the sack, the red sack, the sack of red, the blood, the life that flows through this red, the sack that carries all the blood, the sacred life force. So the life force, geometric potential of the sacred geometry is how we can understand the reflections of light. It's all about geometry. This is why you talk about Pythagorean theorems being so relevant for calculating matter and space and time. These are in conformity with, they're conforming with the principles of light. And light is the structure of matter. Because, oh, by the way, smash the like and share this. Smash the like and share this live, man. Let other people find out about it. Because I'm preaching to the converted here, which is all good, but it'd be good to be preaching to the unconverted. Come on, the church of light. But so yeah, I mean that's an interesting way of looking at these things. And so we can break this down further. We can go into, okay, so the mysteries of light, right? Is it heavy or is it light? Right? So the slower that light moves, the heavier that it gets. Why heavier? Because it's a heave. What is the heave? Heave. Huh? Hib. It's got to do with breathing, right? So the light then has to be breathed because it becomes so heavy, it becomes pranic vibration. And that pranic vibration, which is the fundamental principle or substance behind all of the elemental potentials, is what we have to breathe in, the life force. And so we have to breathe in, we have to heave, it becomes heavy and dense. And the slower that light vibrates at, the more dense it becomes. And the faster it vibrates, the lighter it gets. So mass has got a lot to do with the resonant field of vibration. The more complex a particle, the slower its vibrational field will be in terms of resonant fields. So that's an interesting thing to consider as well. It might have an accumulated vibrational field, but each of the components will be slow within the structure. And cumulative vibration isn't the same as component vibration. It's important. Let's say I've got 50 pieces, and one piece goes click, click, click. And then I've got 50 pieces all with the same rhythm put into a sequence. It would be like, be so quick, right? But the actual frequency of each piece is click, 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 but together it sounds like fast. Sort of like, people clapping, for example. One person clapping is a very slow clap, 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 clap. A crowd clapping, it's just a constant roar of clapping. It's the same idea, really. Think of it in those terms. So when we're talking about this resonant frequencies of light becoming heavier, it's the further we move from the event horizon. And the event horizon is where the light emerges from. And yeah, big love, Peggy Long. Thank you. When we're moving towards the outskirts of the circle, we're starting to reach the sort of the fundamental plane of crystallization. And as we move towards the event horizon, we start to reach the plane of pure energy. And when we cross the event horizon, we're negative energy. What is negative energy? I'm using these words. Negative energy is when you are the source from where energy arises. So if we imagine like the Hermetic 7 principles for a moment, just because they're a very convenient and easy way of putting these ideas into context. So the rhythm is what we experience. The rhythms of the vibrations due to the polarization is producing the cause and effects and they are bouncing off of each other. So one pendulum swinging like this and two pendulums swinging, at some points they're going to bounce, and that bounce is a collision. And when you've got all these many different rhythms, these many different pendulums swinging, the causes and the effects of the collisions produce their own new rhythm adds, if you will, changing the frequency. And that slowing down of the cause and effect of the collisions releases more light. And the more light that is released, the more crystallized the structure becomes. And so that cause and effect then becomes this structure, right? That brings the fundamental polarity. Let me turn the volume off for this damn thing. Mind you, I'm expecting a delivery today, so I'm going to have to pay. No, am I expecting courier guy? Amazon package is arriving today. Oh, wow. Courier guy is out for delivery today. Okay. Pin 980. Okay, so I've got an Amazon courier guy coming. I better keep that on. I always have things getting delivered. I do all my shopping online because I don't leave my home. I'm old fashioned. This is my farm. I live here. You could think of it as, and I don't like to go into the town or the city unless I have to. And it turns out I don't really have to. So I stay here with mountain, fresh air, the ocean, nature reserve, my birds, my dogs, bunnies, and the birds and the baboons and the penguins and everything else, and try not to leave unless I have to. So, and it turns out, there's one good thing about the modern world is that you don't have to leave your home too much. I work from home. So, I would also say that when we're looking at these principles, it's important to recognize the chakras that are related to them from a Vedic perspective, which is interesting. Because if you look at them very carefully, you can sort of get an idea of like the anahata, which is the heart, is all about polarity, right? What does the heart do in the body? Well, it polarizes the plasma by beating, creating an electromagnetic pulse. What is an electromagnetic pulse? It's light that enlightens the blood, and that it gives that electrical spark that can flow. It's invisible light that flows through the system, electrifying the blood. And Visuddhi chakra. And if we want to relate that anahata chakra, it's the imagination, it's the polarity, it's the potential, the mind's potential. And the imagination is just that field of potential. With a memory, the memory is the form of the field that potential takes, right? And that's the Visuddhi chakra, that's the psychic sphere. And then the Ajna chakra, what they call the third eye, badly named, is the intuitive potential. That's where we are taking information in. The information of light, we are actually taking it in directly. And we're experiencing this enlightened state of consciousness. Do you want to go down? Yeah, Daddy will help you. Come. Daddy will let you go down. There you go. It's all right. Let you climb down there. There you go. And so the intuition of the and the sphere of Sahasrara, you can't see that because of the logo, but it's Sahasrara, that's the crown chakra, is where the inspiration comes from. We are inspired to be physical beings. When that inspiration leaves, the inspiration to be physical beings leaves with it. We're no longer physical. We're no longer alive. And this inspiration is drawn in through the intuitive function and turned into information. And that structures the memory, the field, the psychic field. within which this is structured. And this holds the potential of the imagination, which then falls under the domain of the Manipura. Mani meaning gem, Pura meaning that's everything, far-reaching. The far-reaching, everything touching the gem of the will that is able to touch all aspects of the sphere of the memory through the imagination, the Manipura. And this then produces the desire. What is the desire? Well, this cause and effect desire the particle to move that way. It couldn't stop it now. Because it hit off this particle, it has a desire to move that way, right? And that desire pulls it towards this thing, which it now smacks against. Now it has a desire to move that way, right? Desire. It's a new creation that is strung, that is arisen from a collision. And that new creation is bound in the consciousness field by desire. So we desire, that causes us to meet a woman, and wada bada bingo, later there's a little baby, out of the mix. That's its point in the cosmic universe, to propagate creation. And that this Svadhisthana chakra, the womb, right? And this then results in the field of sensation. Because we have desired it, it now manifests. So the mani of the will is manifesting due to the desire, due to this Svadhisthana chakra, or this cause and effect, this, which is differentiating everything very clearly. I like that, I don't like that. This thing wants to be with this thing repels that thing. This gender of attraction and repulsion on the physical form is another expression of polarity of the heart on another frequency of being. This is why we have 3 circles. 3 circles represent these 3 fundamental states of being that are sort of engaging to produce this physical reality that we're experiencing. So plasma. Yeah, exactly, Howard. Plasma, the word plas is from farm. Tell me in your language, what's the word for farm in your language, Howard? Is it plas? I know it is in Dutch, in the Nederlandse taal. Probably Germanic has a similar word. Goes Proto-Indo-European languages. But I wonder, in your language, is there a word that sounds like plas related to farm? I wouldn't be surprised if there is. And then the ma is the mother. So the mother of the farm. Plas means place, exactly. Place, which is this physical place, and the mother that contains this physical place. So the light is the emanation of physicality that produces this place within the mother's bosom, plasma. Is plasma, so we are recreated, reincarnated. Reggie, that's a really interesting idea. And like this recreated, our bodies are recreated in order for us to function again, but we are recreated every moment of our life. Every thought and every emotion and every choice that you make changes who you are. I want you to understand the gravity of the situation, man. Every thought that you allow yourself to entertain is going to somehow shape you. If you resist a thought, that shapes you. If you okay, come. He's biting my toe because he wants to come up. It's a pushy little bugger, little bully. Howard, you were saying that he's my I'm his prisoner, Howard. Let's get this straight, right? Like he's abducted me. I haven't abducted him. He's abducted me. He rules this place. Ow! Okay. See what happens to Daddy if he doesn't stroke? gets bitten really. No, this is getting too much now. I'm going to put you in a cage if you carry on like this. Okay, I will put you in a cage. I don't want to do it, but I will do it if I have to. Okay, I'll stroke you. Okay. Now he's in a very bad mood. Okay. So I have to stroke and talk. You see, he wants attention. Hey, Tom, how you doing, dear brother? I hope you're good, man. Big love to Tom. So yeah, as I was saying, the incarnation, we're changing who we are every second of our lives. And that's the upload, that's the etheric. So if we want to take a look at this, we can think of, no, I can't have you up here, my darling. You're going to chew everything. Okay, you can be up there. Just got to keep my phone away. Otherwise, you choose the cover off of my phone. You choose absolutely everything. So if we look at the red sphere here, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender, think of that as an upload. An upload, right? Think of your internet. That's the upload. Think of the yellow, the rhythm, the polarity, and the vibration. That's the download. You're downloading the vibration and the energy of the polarity, right? You're then uploading the cause and the effect and the gender. The gender is the bringing together of the polarities. So the polarities are being reinstituted and reorganized by the etheric field, which is uploading all the information as we are downloading the astral. And the upload is so that the soul body, the blue, right, vibration, correspondence, and mentalism, can have an imprint, because that's your causal body, that's your soul. No. Now you're chewing this. He's chewing my notebook. This little Oki's taking over, man. He's taking over. He's a little terrorist. He's a criminal. He's like a little criminal. I got a criminal here. Hey. Cockatiels can be quite a demanding lot. But he's my little boy, so he's all good. But yeah, so to understand that the causal body is retaining something of here. He's throwing the pens off the desk, the little table. Okay. He literally picks up the pen and walks across the table and throws it off. It's like a big ceremonial. He wants to throw everything off the table. Oh my gosh. So yeah. The change happens before we take form. This is why there's a perfect mathematics to the way this works, the reincarnation story, right? Your ancestral blood lineage, how I change as a person affects my child. Just think about this. And those subtle changes will carry through into my child's life, and they will carry through into his child's life and into the child after that. In the Bible, it says the sins of the parents become the sins of the children. Understand why and what this means. Hermetics has got the answer. This upload and download of consciousness, the Ida downloading and the Pingala uploading, this process is a dynamic expression of polarity becoming unified in the Shashumna. Now, the Shashumna is the representation of the higher sphere, of the soul body, of the true spiritual body, which separates into two: the astral and the etheric. The astral is a hyperdimensional emotional body, and the etheric is a less hyperdimensional etheric body, more hyperdimensional than physicality, but less than the astral. It fits into the astral like a penis fits into the vagina. Isn't that so beautiful? Guys and girls, you're all gonna love that idea. So it fits into the astral like a good old pea in a pod, and it produces the synergy of life that we're experiencing. This is why we have a wand, right? And this is why in Vedic cosmology, you'll see the shivling and the yoni are usually together. You'll see a shivling coming out of a yoni, emerging from a yoni. And they will wash the shivling with milk, right? So that the milk can pour off the shivling and fill the yoni with milk. What do you think that symbolizes? The traditional Vedic rituals. The milk represents the semen. It looks like semen, it's white juice. It cleans off the penis. It filters onto the yoni, the shivling, and into the yoni it collects, and then it flows forth from the yoni as abundance. And then people would collect this and drink it as prasad. They would turn it into lassi and they would drink it. Maybe they put a bit of bang in it and call it bang lassi, make it an exciting lassi. But yeah, so these principles are hidden in our rituals of our traditional rituals that we practice spiritually, our religions, and or pre-religions, probably more evident to see. Though this principle of the upload and the download is the passage of the soul's information. And so when we want to come back here, we have to come back into a place where the vibration of the DNA that we are going to be embodying our consciousness through is in phase with ourselves. That's why we can't just reincarnate at any point in time. This nonsense, this new age BS nonsense about how we choose our incarnations. I'm sorry, mouth fluff, nonsense. Yes, some of us choose to come back. Some of us don't. Some souls have the potential to continue to go on, and they go, no, they want to work here, because you have to work. You have to do something, right? You have to be a part of this process. Like in life, everything's got to work. It's got to work to eat. It's got to work to look after its children, its babies. Birds have to go off and fly pieces of twigs and build a nest and go and work to go and find little worms and bring them back and feed them to their babies. No different. I see there's a camera freeze happening. So what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm very, very sorry about that. I see that a few of you were waiting. I'm not quite sure what just happened. So let's get back to it. Where were we? I think what happened was my little boy, Agarthon, messed with the cables or something. I don't know what happened. But anyway, my computer crashed. So I don't know if it was. I don't think that was him. It's probably Google, Microsoft updates. I've turned off updates. I've tried to stop the Windows 11 from updating. It goes behind your back and it reanimates. It's I don't know if it was a Garthon because it said that the mic had disconnected, but it does that when it updates as well. So I'm gonna have to check that PC. I'm just really disappointed, man. Anyway, I'm running on Linux now, so there can be no more of that. How's the audio? Is everything okay? Is everything on point? Is the audio good? Just let me know if there's any issues, just so I can understand if there's any problems with the system. Okay, so where were we? Oh, so sorry about that. I've got a much bigger screen now. That's interesting. So yeah, looking at the structure of, we were talking about, let me draw forth this idea from my head. We were talking about the structure of light and the upload of the etheric and the download of the astral as being the etheric encapsulated within the astral, and the encapsulation of the etheric within the astral. Thank you. You see, Linux is really, they're nice. They tell you there are updates available if you wish. You know, you get a choice. Isn't that the way it's supposed to work? Like you get to choose. Yeah. So, and that the proverbial phallus of the etheric is embedded within the Cataic universe of the astral, and that the energy of the astral thus permeates the structures of the etheric. And there was a point that I was coming from with that in mind, by the way. I was trying to make a very particular point. The point being, I think, that the notion of space-time and reincarnation. That's right, reincarnation. That was the question. Who was it that asked the question? Was it Darlene? Somebody asked the question. I can't remember now. No, it wasn't Darlene. It was anyway, brain fog. But the idea of reincarnation thus means that we need to take on a DNA field that can encapsulate our consciousness, that can carry our field of emanations. And it's perfect mathematics that as we change, we give a vibrational field to our kids that changes their DNA field. So the DNA is a vibrational field. That's where I was getting at. And that vibrational field of DNA, you need to slot into that DNA vibrating field as per the correct frequencies of where you are at. And this is why you don't choose your incarnations. There are those that choose to incarnate, but even those that choose to incarnate can only boldly go where no man has gone before. No, they can only go where they are allowed to go as per the vibrational field. In other words, if you put water in a container, the water has to go to the bottom of the container, because that's what water does. It's allowed to stick to the sides of the container a bit, but there are fixed principles, and it's the same with the incarnation. So We have to go where the DNA field matches our state of evolution. And that means the bridge of time could be further. This is why you'll find some of your previous incarnations. Yo, you managed to stretch them for 3 hours. Well done. Well done. I think you've given them a whole new way of a whole new way. Like when we're done, everybody will be doing 4-hour podcasts. we're turning the world into like heroic podcasts, because most people do like 1 or 2 hours. Not our crew. Our crew, when we start, we don't stop. It's like, yeah, we get going. You lost your voice. Well, you got to keep your voice, buddy. Yeah, brother, you got to keep your voice. Jump on if you feel you've got any juice left. But there should be a link. The emanations of this field of consciousness that we call matter is bound within this field of light, and DNA is really a highly refined field of vibrations. Think of DNA as light. So it's a very finely tuned electromagnetic field, right? The finest, it goes all the way from gigahertz to terahertz, right? The field of DNA, up to beyond 10 terahertz and down to below 1 gigahertz, just to give you an idea of the scale of different vibrational states within that field. And so it's important for us to bear in mind, there's a lot within the DNA that we can't imagine, but it encompasses our past lives, it encompasses our ancestral knowledge, it encompasses our future potentials. It's all within the DNA, because the DNA is the emanation of the consciousness field through which living light can come into being. So it's got to hold all of the frames in it as a potential. Just think of what this means. It's got to hold a pattern, because the pattern of matter then needs to be in sync with the pattern of the DNA, and the life path and the circumstances have got to be in sync vibrationally. The cause and effect needs to hold true. This needs to be in relation to the vibrational field and the rhythms that particular consciousness being is bringing in through this field has got to be in resonance. So there's quite a lot that goes into it. And so there's this nature of incarnation is quite a science. All this new age fluffy nonsense about you choose your incarnation, you choose it. Yes, you do. You do. But how do you choose it? Here's the secret. I'm going to share with you guys. Right now, everything that you think and everything that you do chooses your future incarnation. You don't go through life having finished life and then get to, oh, well, actually, for my next show, I was hoping to do a little bit of a Broadway gamble. No, it doesn't work like that, right? Unless you solve the cube. If you finish if you solve this world, the puzzle of life. Bomb Shiva, Peace Frog, how are you doing? Hope you're good. Hope you're well. If you solve this puzzle of life, you then are able to continue on beyond, at which point you can choose not to go beyond. You can choose to stay here and do work here. That can be a choice. But within that choice, there's regulations, right? You got to fill out this form. You got to go stand in that queue. And then you got to apply in that office. And then you got to speak to that one. Then you got to get that form. You got to get that form sanctioned by that office. That business, it exists, right? But not quite the same. But there's a lot to it, and it would have to be in tune with the vibrational field of your DNA. Your DNA would have to find a way to come in, and a time that it can fit into the world to do the mission, because then you're coming in for a conscious mission. But as general rule, people are locked in because they're trapped in the sphere, and what they're doing now, what they're thinking now, what they're allowing their consciousness to dwell upon will dictate their future incarnations, but not after they've left, while they're in the flesh. Why? Because you are changing your causal body. You are changing your soul. So what is life? Life is where we come to change our souls. See you now, dear Howard. Big love. So life is where we come to transform our souls. When we start to appreciate the scale of what we're actually getting at here, people can start to recognize and realize how important this existence is. So we come here, we transform our souls become something different, either moving up the scale of evolution or down the scale of evolution, right? And then we tap out, tap out. And then based upon what transformation our soul has achieved and what level it is at, the next incarnation will be based upon that. We make no choices at that point. It is dictated for us. We don't have a choice not to come back either. I want us to understand this. Why do you think, just ask yourself a question, why do you think suicidal people exist? Why are sewage pipe people who want to commit sewage pipes, why are they here? Because they didn't really want to come back. They didn't have a choice. Why? Because it wasn't theirs. They didn't get to make the choice. They came back here. And they're like, damn, they didn't want to be here again. So they want to do the sewage pipes thing, right? So when you consider that, you realize that we are locked into a karmic cycle. These karmic cycles will perpetuate until we free ourselves. So what the Buddha was saying was true. What the New Agers are saying is false. But it's true when you look at the greater structure of reality. Yes, we do choose, but we choose while we're alive by the lives that we lead and the actions that we commit ourselves to and the thoughts that we induce and allow ourselves to associate and recognize and relate to. And the thoughts that we relate to, the feelings that we channel, the actions that we do, these will all shape who we are spiritually, our spiritual being. And that spiritual being will then be either subject to incarnate in a particular way, in a particular frequency, at a particular time that can hold that frequency. If the DNA is on the table as it speaks, which it has to be, or it will have finished the puzzle of this life and transcended. And then it gets to make a choice and go, actually, you know what? I don't need to transcend. I'm good. I got more work to do here, which is a choice. That's the bodhisattva. So, I mean, I'm not pushing Buddhist philosophy because I don't agree with the way that much Buddhist philosophy has been broken down, because that pedophile guy with the red cape, the red dress, the pedophile with the red dress that likes to put his tongue into little boys' mouths, that guy and his little bunch of cronies, like, you know, when they're not defacing religion and becoming the face for transhumanism and trying to convince the world that transhumanism is a good thing and that we should all become half like cyborg because he's going to do it. This is all facts, by the way. I'm not making any of this up. And we know who the pedophile is that puts his tongue in little boys' mouths. If you don't know, become informed. That little pedophile collective that attacked the Dorje Shugdens and basically changed the laws, changed the religion, and caused the Dorje Shugden to be attacked and harmed in Tibet. They finally changed their attitude in the 2020s because they got too much bad press. And so their publicists came to them and said, look, maybe you should stop attacking the Dorje people and rather just focus on putting your tongue into the mouths of little children. And he was like, oh, I like it. Oh, I'm on board. And so he went off and he found little children and he put his tongues into their mouths. Who knows what other orifices he put that filthy tongue into? We don't want to talk about that because it's too disgusting. And for the sake of the children, let's hope he gets, seen for what he is. But that whole crony crew has basically defaced Buddhism. They have dropped what used to be the philosophy of Buddha into the toilet, taken a good old-fashioned dump and said, we don't need to flush. So no flushing allowed in this toilet. Why? Because it's where we keep our Buddhism. So that's what they've done with the philosophy of Buddha. Buddha would be rolling around in his grave, doing like Like, who is this? Who is this man with the tongue and the children? Who's this guy who goes around tonguing kids? This is not right. So anyway, there's my humorous outtakes on. That's the way my mind thinks of this. But this is why I don't necessarily go with most Buddhist philosophy, because it has been defaced by Fisei wielding men in red dresses that like children way more than they should. They may as well be like Catholics, They are the new improved Catholics. The Catholics wore like a very dull black dress. The Catholic men wore a dull black dress, which defined them as like, we like children. And then people got like onto them and they were like, no, we keep those men in black dresses away from the children. And so the Illuminati came out and they said, we've got a much new improved 2.0. Look, there's men in red dresses. Oh, men in red dresses. Yeah, they love children. They don't do the things that the men with black dresses do to children. These are the red dress men. So now we've got red dress men and we need to address the issues. But anyway, I'm getting off the topic here. I do think that the certain principles do hold true of Buddhism. The reason I mention this is that, you don't think I'm selling that slop that they serve in the form of Buddhism. All these people who claim to their lineages. Oh my gosh. I had a giggle. We did a live a while ago, and there were all these people who claim they're in like legitimate lineages from this pedophile lineage, and they're proud of it. Instead of like keeping their head low in shame and like hiding away in the shadows like they should be, they proudly pronounced, we have got a lineage. We've got a lineage of these pedophiles. So, there's a real mental illness on the planet happening. And some of these people are authors. They've written loads of books. I'll give you an example. There's a group on Facebook called Three World Shamanism, owned by Nicholas Breezewood, right? These people are pushing pedophile agendas. It's sad. It's heavy. Like, if you're pushing the agenda of the men in red dresses, I'm sorry, you're pushing a pedophile agenda. You just don't know it. The same as if you're pushing a Catholic, the men in black dresses, you're pushing a pedophile agenda, because these people are sick. They are twisted. They are out to undermine religion, undermine spirituality, undermine all of this knowledge of light, of what light really is, and put it into these like weird little boxes of thought where you got to say those people are evil and those people are bad and those people are evil, and create dissension between people, right? And while they're doing this, they're actually doing things in the world like promoting transhumanism, which is actually genuinely evil. Transhumanism is evil, right? It is. It's sick. They want to take our humanity away from us and turn us into machines. What could be worse for the spiritual unfoldment of humanity? So this light is really the foundational expression of consciousness. And to understand what this light is to understand that the pineal generates light. Another phallic, no, not phallic, sorry, I've got phallic on the brain. Another misconception is that the third eye is the pineal gland. You're going to hear all these new ages out there talking about the pineal gland and the third eye because they know about it, because they saw another YouTuber talk about it, and that YouTuber saw another YouTuber talk about it. They're all going to be going on and on and on about the third eye is the pineal gland. I'm sorry. Wake up call, people. The pineal gland is one half of the third eye. Look at the picture. Go and look at the picture. Let me get you the picture so we can just show you what I'm talking about. And these crazy nut jobs that go around telling you that the third eye is the pineal gland can finally catch a wake-up call. Ajna chakra. Glyph. Is that the right word? I won't call it a glyph where they come from. But anyway, let's take a look if we can find it. There we go. That'll do. That will do. That will do. Okay. No, sorry. Got to get the image. Open image in new tabs. Okay, so we're gonna share screen, and sorry for the delay. I'm on a different PC. So there we go. Turn off the volume and share. So we should be able to hopefully see this popping up on your screen now. There we go. And let's make it a little bit bigger. So what do you notice here when you look at this picture? And I mean, here we've got the glyph, which is the symbol for Ajna chakra. And in the center, we've got the Om, right? On the left, we've got the Home. On the right, we've got the Ksham. So Ksham, Hum, and Om. Now, these two petals on either side, the Ksham and the Home, this Home represents the pineal gland, and the Ksham represents the pituitary gland. I want us to understand what's being shown here with the third eye glyph, so that all those new agers who have got this tiny little piece of the puzzle that they keep flashing like it's a cue card for the truth can catch a wake-up call, because they really need to. So the Ajna chakra represents unified consciousness, the union between the emotional intelligence and the rational intelligence, right? The logos and the coming together in a state of harmony. And so what you could define it with in terms of brain means whole brain action, whole brain. You're not thinking with just this part of the brain or that part of the brain or this part of the brain. You're thinking with the entirety of the brain. That means that the neural pathways are opening up between all aspects of the brain, creating a very powerful web of information that's tapping simultaneously into different fields of consciousness. Very, very important. Yes, the pineal is important. It's a part of it, but it's not it. This is not the pineal. This is the space that holds the pineal and the pituitary together. The pituitary is associated on the hypothalamus, and the pineal is associated on the thalamus. It's like a little pimple. And the pituitary's got a posterior and an anterior pituitary gland, and they relate to the conscious emotions and the unconscious emotions. And the pineal is like a little pimple, and between the pineal and the pituitary, you have this field of consciousness, bringing it into the body. It draws the distinctions between the feelings and taking in information and the logical giving out information. Remember, the etheric is that giving out, returning that energy upload, and the emotional is the taking in, receiving the download from the spiritual body. So there's this constant process of give and take, and that's what this represents as a union. And that within this union, there are three fundamental points, and those three fundamental points are carrying the embodiment of the three fundamental bodies, and from this will separate these three fundamental bodies. And that's why they are carried in here. And so it projects two bodies downwards, right? And the two bodies that it projects downwards becomes the flow of the Pingala returning from the source, and the Ida taking the current to the point. And these two bodies then become the proverbial phallus and the proverbial cataic receptor of the union of consciousness. So this has gotten very little. You cannot say that this is the pineal gland is the third eye. I'm sorry, that's BS. It's nonsense. It's half of the third eye. It's like saying that the left-hand side of your body, or no, sorry, specifically, it's like saying that the right-hand side of your body is your body. And we're just gonna pretend that just the right-hand side of your body. Then someone says, well, what is the left-hand side? Oh, that's something else. We're talking about the body here. We're not talking about the left-hand side. Oh, right. You're talking about the right hand and the right leg and the right face. Yes, that's the body. No, the body has actually got a left and a right side. It's got a top and a bottom. So that gives us an insight into like the mysteries of the Ajna chakra. And I keep hearing these new ages talking about the pineal gland is the third eye, and it's cute. It's cute. It's like hearing a 7-year-old talking about quantum physics, right? They're using big words they don't really fully understand. It's sweet. It's lovely to watch, but it doesn't hold true because they're not embedded themselves within the practice. And if they embed themselves within the practice, then they will discover these truths for themselves because they will see it from an external perspective outside of the body. And then it will be taught to them, right? By the intelligences, that they will learn these things. So yeah, this is an important concept to understand, because this represents the upload and the download, right? And the upload and the download of these potentials are downloading the vibrational field and uploading the mental field. And so from this perspective, we can sort of recognize what light is. Light is this polarizing potential that we're seeing here. And this is the unified seed Om of that polarizing potential. And that polarizing potential can then be seen as A, B, or AB. That's three. A, B, or AB. And AB exists, and A and B come from AB. So you could think of the AB being the causal body, the soul body, and then the A and the B splitting out of this, and then the B, the A within the B, if you want, just because the A looks like a phallus and the B looks like boobs. So it makes sense that the A is the masculine, the B is the feminine. But as a concept, and obviously B represents a house, where A represents the breath, the oxen of heaven, the bull of heaven as it crawls across the sky, those particular letters. So when we start to recognize that this Om is the fundamental structure of manifestation of light, Om also is a word that means light. In Latin, the word Om means light. No coincidence there, because it comes from the same roots, comes from the same source. That's why they say Om Pax. What is it? Om Pax. Oh, it's been so many years. Light in extension. The Latin saying Om Pax something. Those three words represent these three principles we're talking about. And it's a typical thing that's chanted in the Western mystery schools. I should know it, but it's been so many years since I've embedded myself within the Western mysteries, decades really, having moved to mysticism and then from there to shamanism. But luckily I retain like a bit of it. So yeah, exactly, Tom, expanding consciousness from the heart is the imagination, and the imagination is where the light lives, and that's where the awareness and the enlightened principle find its home. And so it's important for us to recognize this. It's important for us to be able to put this into perspective, and to draw from this power and this energy, so that we're able to sort of look a little deeper, look beyond the obvious. And so this light then carries all of this potential. And I don't have that field of correspondences here, do I? No, I don't. I'm on a different computer, so I don't have that image that I drew. I should put it on this computer too. I'm glad this computer is working better. Maybe I'm going to use this for my podcasting from now on. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the other one. It's still fairly new. And like this has happened before. And this is totally unacceptable that it turns off like this. But yeah, so it's important for us to be able to recognize and realize that this structure of reality is definitely not what it seems to be. And it is essentially light, the emission of light coming forth. And I think, like, when we look at the process of this field, we can Om Tat Tat, that's Sanskrit. That's Sanskrit. Om Tat Tat and Tat. Tat is the root for the word Saturn, and has to do with, like, not being alive anymore on a very abstract way, but it represents that total outside there. Let me try and get the Latin one. Latin light in extension phrase Om Pax. Om Pax. There's another word. Conx Om Pax. Right? That's what it is. Conx Om Pax. Yeah? Don't know if you guys can see it here. This is what I'm talking about. Latin extension. Let's make this a bit bigger for your people to see the words better. So there we go. This is what we're talking about. Conx Om Pax. And it's something that you'll get from the Hermetic Kabbalah. It's a phrase that gets thrown around, like, and light in extension is like how they translate that. But I'm guessing that Pax, now that I think about it, because I haven't really bothered to dwell on this so much in such a long Pax Latin etymology. Let's share this one. So they are going to attach words to it like peace, compact, tranquility. It comes from the European root of the word pag, which, and I want to point out that this is the root for the word pagan, right? I don't know if you guys are with me. The root for the word pagan is the root for the word pax in Latin. And so it means to fix, to attach. Conx, Latin etymology. So conx, according to it, okay, carbs. That can make more sense. But they say conx isn't a Latin word. And that wasn't made up by Crowley, by the way. Conx. This is just another example of just exactly how the brainwashing happens. Because they will basically tell us one thing. So where was I? So we can't get the conchs on it. Oh yeah, you asked about Om Tat Sat. So the Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. That's Sanskrit. Obviously, the Tat represents the relationship. They're not going to give you a very good breakdown here. Um, you see, when they say ultimate, formless, yeah, now that makes sense. Formless, okay. It's more about the relationship of how consciousness becomes matter. But Sat represents like the absolute state. So Sat is the absolute state of transcendence. And you can think of Tat as that relationship of that absolute state as it's coming into manifestation and creation. And so the process, the Tat, you could say that. I imagine the word that's probably got an etymological relationship, because that represents a relationship between this and that, and what is there and there. That separating potential where the monad becomes the multiplicity. And the Om is the multiplicity being expressed, and the Sat is the singularity. So these three principles are sort of finely woven together as a concept. Unfortunately, the Google translations I only can probably give you so much, but the Conks Om Pax is another one. It's attributed to Crowley, but I believe that he got it from the Golden Dawn. That particular one, he might have changed the word Conks, because there's another word that I heard, that I learned, slightly different to the Conks word, and I think he changed that word, and I can't remember what that word is. But when I remember it, I will tell you. It's been decades, probably like 3.5 more. It's been a lot of decades, like maybe a little bit less than 4 decades, almost 4 decades, since these topics found my door, as it were. But yeah, so the nature of light is an emanation of vibration, and vibration is the fundamental sound and structure of reality, and that's fundamental sound, which is vibration, is the field of consciousness. It's the divine feminine. It's the substance. Yeah, the Rosicrucians, exactly the star. So I mean, Crowley got a lot of credit for stuff he shouldn't have gotten credit for, in my opinion. It's just part of the psyop. It's part of the brainwash. They want us to deify Crowley because he's just like the man in the red dress, right? The man in the red dress had like sexual derangement and tyrannical power, hunger, and was totally against some people, extremely bigoted and racist in the way that he behaved towards the people of the Dorje Shugden, which is an ancient tribe, right, within Tibetan Buddhism. And we see the same thing that's happened with the Catholics, right? The Catholics went and they wanted to exterminate the Cathars because they were evil, right? Well, in modern times, the man who tongues children, who wears a red dress and gets all his lackeys to wear red dresses and practice child tonguing. I'm guessing, because if that's what your guru does, aren't you going to emulate your guru? Isn't that how gurus work? Your guru is your teacher. You want to emulate your guru. If your guru does bad things to kids, aren't you going to do bad things to kids because you want to be like him? That's who you want to be like. So, I mean, children understand this, and they act out their heroes. They act like they're heroes. And so we've got the same lineage here happening, right? The same people, the same as the Catholics wanting to go out and exterminate those people. The same reasons, right? The Dorje Shugden were evil, worshipping evil spirits. Of course, they had to be removed. So yeah, exactly. Om is 3 parts. It's the structure, and it's not just electricity, by the way, because it's I would say the electromagnetic field. Yeah, where electrical potential is one part of it, and magnetism is another part of it, and then the interaction between electrical and the magnetic, right? Like if you want to think of it in terms of that, and then the sound vibration, right? You have the center of the toric field, and you have the circumference of the toric field, and then you have that process of movement between the two. That's the tat, and then the sat would be the center of that field, and the aum would be the circumference of that field, and vice versa, because at a certain point the circumference becomes the center and the center becomes a circumference when we're looking at a torus. So that's important to sort of recognize as well. And I think we're sort of getting towards the end of this live. It's been running for 2 hours. I promised it was only going to go for an hour, but then it dropped off before I got to say bye. So I had to pop by and say hi. Hi. Bye. Hope you guys enjoyed the little bit of the tongue wag chit chat. Gonna have a little bit of a knick knack. Gonna say hey, hip hop, hip hop. And enjoy the rest of your week. Take it easy. Keep smiling. Keep the dream alive. Keep the living song in your heart, and allow your lips to say the words and make the world more beautiful. And big love, big blessings, peace, honor, and respect to all of you. I hope you got what you came for, and I hope you came for the right things. I'm sure you guys all did. Sending you all much love, and always, as always, the star and D Love, a pleasure. And everybody else as well, Tom Rue and Howard and Rachel and Carly. I didn't see you earlier, Carly. Big love. You just said free energy on Systematic Zoos live earlier about psi stem hacking the psi stem. yeah, psi stem hacking. Absolutely. And big love to Rachel and everybody else. I hope you guys are going to have a good day. And Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Big blessings to you all.